Hi, my sweet friends. How are you today? My name is Misty Sims, and if you have found me, you have found my little corner of the internet that I like to call Beyond Reasonable Doubt, where we discuss all things true crime, culty, and even a little bit creepy. So I am so glad to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and I do hope that you will subscribe and hang out with me long term so we can keep talking about all these things. And if you are back for another round and a returning subscriber, I love you more than cupcakes with sprinkles. So thank you for coming back and enjoying this with me. So how are you guys' week going? Like, I am a little later getting this video out this week than I wanted to be. It has been a crazy busy week with work and things like that, but it's been a very blessed week. I've had some amazing events that I've catered, and it's been a lot of fun, but it's all in prep for going back to school. Like, I don't know about you guys, but my kids go back to school next week, and I can't believe it's over. Like, summer's already over for us, and I mean, part of me is like, woohoo, like it's gonna be a little quieter, I can get more things done, and like I'm gonna be pulling out that parking lot on two wheels, like smoking the tires, you mom and daddies know what I'm talking about. And then there's that other part of me that's like, I'm gonna miss my babies, because I do love when they get up in the morning like the crazy hair and them jammies, and they're like, can I have a snack, can I have a donut, whatever. But yeah, so let me know down below. You guys headed back to school? What'd you do this summer? How are things going? But until then, we are going to do a case today that's very interesting. It's a little lighter, I think, than the ones we've been doing. We've had a lot of heavy ones. We're going to have another heavy one coming up. So I wanted to do something today that was, well, there's a whole lot of allegations. They're not why am I like this, y'all? Why can I not speak words? English for me is so hard, and it's my native language. Southern, I guess, is really my native language, and that's a language all in itself. But anyways, this is a little lighter. There have been several allegations that have been made against this particular group of people. But as I read this to you today, and as we cover this today, nothing has been proven at this time, so it is all alleged. As a reminder, this video is for entertainment purposes only. It is simply information that I have found on the internet and via other sources that I have compiled into one and put it out here for you. And I am just a lady on the internet with a camera and a mic and way too much to say. So please always do your own research. Always be kind in the comment section to each other and to anybody that might be, listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube that could possibly be a friend, a family member, or in this situation, affiliated with this group or previously affiliated. Always choose kindness. And let's dive right on into that. Alright guys, so today's case, we're talking a cult, and I am so excited about this. I love researching cults, and the reason being because the psychology behind it fascinates me. Like, you have these people who are all looking to come together for one common thread, common ground, and out of nowhere they affiliate with this group, things are going great, and then it's the paradigm shifts somehow in this group, and things just go off the rails. I'm thinking, like Jim Jones, which we'll cover that one another day, but Jonestown, it all seemingly started out is a good thing. It was a common place for, he was speaking about, he wanted folks of varying races to be able to come together in one church service, things like that. And then it spun just out of control. And then we end up with like hundreds and hundreds of people who drink Flavor Aid, and they're all, dead in this town that they founded. So it's just, that fascinates me. Like, how can one person manipulate so many people over the course of time? And typically it's slow, right? You see the slow evolution of this. So today we are talking about the 12 Tribes cult, and this one literally hits home for me because it was founded just right up the road from me. You guys know I'm in Middle Tennessee. This one was founded in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right close to the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. So this one is it's got got a special little place right there. So let's just dive on into this mess that we are about to unfold. So this is going to be a wild ride. So hang on. So in 1972, we found the 12 tribes alleged cult by Gene Spriggs. Now this group has undergone many different names, and I'm going to read them to you, and I'm going to butcher their names, and I'm going to apologize. Y'all know how I am. Y'all know how I am, and you're coming back, and hopefully you love me, so bear with me. But they were founded originally as the Vine Christian Community Church. They went on to be called the Northeast Kingdom Community Church, the Messianic Community Church, or Communities and Community Apostolic Center. So we got a long name there. But regardless of their name, they eventually found their way to the 12 tribes name. And they are quoted as saying that they are trying to recreate the first century church as it's defined in the book of Acts from the Bible. And the name the 12 tribes also derives from the book of Acts 26:7. It was a quote by the Apostle Paul, and I'm going to read that to you from the King James Version, and it says, "Unto which promise our 12 tribes, instantly serving God day and night, hope to come." So that's where their name comes from. That's where this whole ideology comes from the 12 tribes. But before we get too far into their belief system, let's talk about their founder, Gene Spriggs. So Gene was born Albert Eugene Spriggs Jr. in 1937, and he was born into a devout Methodist family up in East Ridge, Tennessee. So if you don't know where that is, I'm gonna put a little map in here where you can see. But he's a Tennessean, and then came back here, from after some travels around to found his cult. But his family sounded like honest, hardworking people. One was a factory worker, one was a scoutmaster. Like I said, they were devoutly Methodist, so he had a religious influence all through growing up, but he didn't really have a religious epiphany until he would be older, much older in his life. Gene was, kind of bouncing around all over his life trying to figure out what Gene wants to be when Gene grows up, right? So he goes on to the University of Chattanooga, or University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, and graduates with a degree in psychology. And well played, Gene. I see what you did there, because you're going to go on to be a cult leader. Better get that psychology degree under that belt. But after graduating, his early adulthood was kind of all over the place. There's not like tons and tons of facts about him, but some things that stuck out were just that he's carrying on with just a multitude of jobs, right? Like he is doing everything from being a teacher to a carnival worker and all the things in between. So like not anything really, that's like ticket and tie-in. He's been married and divorced 3 times, so he's not settling in anywhere. He's not really finding a life partner until about 1972 to 1973, where he meets and marries a young lady named Marcia Ann Duvall, who he fell madly in love with. She would be his 4th wife, and she would be his final wife, who he had finally kind of just found the one, right? So happy for Gene and Marcia at this point. And around this same time, Gene had been doing some work with the Jesus movement through the Maranatha Chapel and Center Theater. And he would say that this was a huge turning point in his life. This is where he really found his connection to God and the theology and things like that, and just really dedicated his life to following Christ. All sounds great, right? So he and Marcia decide they're going to pack back up from where they are, and they're going to move back home to his home of Chattanooga, and they settle in at 861 Vine Street in downtown Chattanooga. So if you've ever been in downtown Chattanooga, it's a beautiful city. It is very artsy and fun and things like that. They've got beautiful, just a beautiful picturesque landscapes all over the place with the mountains and the river, and it's amazing. And there are some very cool budding artists down there. It's kind of got a little hippie vibe in some places. So, great place for a newlywed couple to kind of settle in, especially if, they're wanting to, really explore a city that's not too hustle and bustle, that kind of thing. Well, they wanted to bring, Christianity to the young folks of Chattanooga, which applaud them for, helping people find Christ as a follower, if that's what they want to do. So they founded what I referred to earlier as Vine Christian Community Church. And this was a bi-weekly Bible study. So not really a church, but a Bible study. And they met in their own home. And over the course of the next year, they would gain 50 to 60 followers. So, I mean, it was becoming pretty predominant in the community and quite the big thing for young people to go do. And these people were actually living with Jean and Marcia at this point. So they're taking them in, they're taking care of them, they're kind of providing for their needs. So you're starting to see this family. I'm doing air quotes if you're on Spotify. You're seeing this family form, right? And then Jean also decides to start having them call him by the name Yannick. And I read a couple interpretations of this, but one was that it means sapling, and I don't know why I find that I giggle like every time I hear it. Like it means they're calling him a sapling. Like I don't know why. I don't know why I'm like this, but anyway. So he's taken on a different name. Several of the members will go on to change their names as well. And then Marcia and Jean figure out that 50 to 60 people living in this little spot in Chattanooga is not working. So what can they do but buy 3 more houses and start a compound, right? So that's what they do. They buy 3 additional houses, and then they decide that everybody needs to, work, right? So they found the Yellow Deli restaurants in Chattanooga. And if you've ever been to Chattanooga, or if you've been around now, they're in several more places, you've probably seen one of these restaurants. The food is supposed to be superb, but they provide this for the folks to have a place to work. And it's a refuge almost. It's known as a refuge for runaways and homeless folks who are coming into the fold. So they're able to work, then they can have room and board, and it kind of gives them some purpose, things like that. So, just pulling them in a little tighter, keeping that community a little bit more tight-knit. They also had the Mate Factor tea shops, but the restaurant will be a staple throughout this entire story. So the Spriggs also opened a coffee shop. And in this coffee shop, they would really minister to any type of countercultural youth, the hippie vibe that I was talking about, people that want to go against the establishment. And they would start bringing them into their homes and moving them into the houses with them. And then they began to refer to this group of people as the Light Brigade. And I swear, y'all, when I read this, I'm just thinking like Star Wars, and they got like the lightsabers out. And I'm sorry, Light Brigade. I don't mean anything insulting by that, but that was just what came to my mind. So by this point, the followers, they have some pretty firm beliefs out there, and that is that they are the restoration. Their mission is the restoration of God's people on earth. So they believe that Spriggs he's an apostle, and they are encouraged to explicitly follow what he says. So by the book, verbatim, else they will be ostracized by this group, and they will be damned to what Jean has told them is an apocalyptic lake of fire. So if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to throw you in a lake of fire. So, here we go. There's a lot. This is where the mind control starts, right? Like, you have to do what I say or you're damned forever. And, I think any religion, that's no one's end goal, right? Your goal is to get to heaven or the equivalent in some other religion. So he starts to use this manipulation over them that, if you don't do what I say, I'm the apostle, so this is what's going to happen to you. And these are young, impressionable people, right? Like, we all remember being budding college students or around that age, and you're very impressionable. You're very, you're trying to figure out who you are. People are like, well, as you're growing up, I did most of my growing in college, I think, in young adulthood. That's when reality sets in and life sets in. So they're very impressionable, that type of thing at this point. Today, because this is still very much like, don't come for me, guys. Don't come for me, 12 drivers, because they're still out there. This is still very much an active group. Which I guess this is why they might not come after me, they are discouraged from internet usage and like outside, secular books and music and worldly influences. So they try to compartmentalize themselves into their world, and just really kind of close themselves off. And sometimes that's a good thing, I guess, if you're not influenced by all the worldly things, you should make your own way in life. But to have that just shut off and no information other than what the group is feeding you, that's a recipe for disaster. like I said, most of the members, when they adopt into the group and they come into the fold, they do change their names, much like Jean did. They adopt a Hebrew name of some sort. They believe that they're going to play a very significant role in the end of times, the concept of tribulation, and in particular, what they believe are the children that are in the group are going to be the ones who are if you've heard about this in religious history and religious texts, they are going to be the 144,000 young virgin males, 12,000 from each tribe, so 12 tribes times 12,000. And they're going to be sent out to be missionaries, but ultimately they will be martyrs and will be slain for, witnessing in Jerusalem and things like that. So, but they believe that they will then be resurrected when Christ returns, or as they refer to him as Joshua, and that these children will be resurrected at that time. So it's a little dark, but it has promise at the end. But I feel like you can kind of see, based on those few things right there, the constricting manner that they're starting to perform in, and the closing people off, and the mind control over, if you don't do this, you're damned. And then, we have a greater cause, a greater good, so you should do this for the group. So I think that's why this group has been labeled so much as a cult, even though they haven't. I think when we think of cults, we automatically think of Jonestown, Waco, Heaven's Gate, something that has had a huge impact, and then usually a lethal end, right? And we aren't there with this one yet, and hopefully we never get there, but they still have those same linkages and tendencies. So we see that really forming. They believe in a 3-tiered afterlife. So it's kind of one of those where, if you're just really, really good, then the first judgment is the holy, and that you're going to rule over the world with Yahshua over the restored earth. If you're, unjust and filthy, that's the second judgment. You're in the lake. You're in the lake, and we don't want to talk about it no more. And then the third group are the righteous, and they don't necessarily have to be followers. They can be from any religion, but they are going to be judged on their acts, not their beliefs. So, look, it's very, very evolved, but you definitely don't want to be in that second group. You don't want to be in the lake. So around 1975, we see the evolution breaking off from other churches. As I told you in the beginning, they were just a Bible study, right? So they're still attending church services and activities and things like that. They're just doing their own Bible study on their own over here. But the church that they were visiting at this point decided to do a cancellation of a Sunday service in lieu of the Super Bowl. This was the First Presbyterian Church in Chattanooga, and that just ticked them off. Now, I mean, like, I'm from the South, and I'm probably like y'all from the South are probably like not even laughing about that one. You're like, why would a church cancel Sunday service for a Super Bowl? But I mean, we take football pretty serious around here, y'all. Like, if you've watched King of the Hill or Varsity Blues, you've got a pretty accurate depiction on how we take football here. But so it's not uncommon to maybe for the day, during the day, but it's not uncommon, I don't think, for people to cancel like a night church service around Super Bowl Sunday. But this was not okay with them. And so they decided they would just start holding their own services, and they would meet like at a local park, things like, big open spaces. And the local churches weren't having this. They were like, you are not a church. You're not, he being Gene's not ordained in any way. Like, this is not how this should be, being practiced. And their behaviors and their ideals and this, branching out kind of started to give people an uncomfortable feeling. So even local colleges started banning students from being able to go eat or study at the yellow Deli locations. They didn't want them having anything to do with it. There were a lot of counter cult articles that started coming out about the group in local publications. And even a man named Ted Patrick came to Chattanooga to start working on what he calls deprogramming programs and activities, because he was taking members of the cult or former members of the Bible study, as they put it, and was trying to get them back situated into normal life after they had been indoctrinated into this group and were, honestly quite fearful of coming back into the real world. So this didn't slow Gene down, though. He kept right on meeting in the park. They met in Chattanooga's Warner Park. We'll show that kind of on a map here. And then they started performing their own baptisms in Chickamauga Lake. So they're all in. They're going, and they're going hard. And Chattanooga was not receiving this very well, and they met with so much opposition that the group decided to relocate to Island Pond, Vermont. It was just time to kind of start a branch up there, get a fresh start, get out of Chattanooga, and just, figure out life up there. And they closed all their Yellow Deli locations down here at the time. They took all their things, all their belongings, and they formed a commune up there. And it was, going fairly well, I guess. They had, started supporting each other through cottage industries. They were working, some would be working as soap makers, others would be doing carpentry work. Any members that lived outside the direct commune, maybe if they were off trying to establish new areas or recruit new people, they would find work as day laborers, and they would send money back to the communes. It was very much believed that what's mine is yours in this group. They all supported one another. It was everything was a communal thing. So they relied heavily on each other. And they also purchased this bus that I'm going to drop in right here. And it was called the Peacemaker. And they used this double-decker bus to go around the country to fairs and festivals and music festivals. They've even been to some of Billy Graham's crusades in it, and they were very frequent at the Grateful Dead concerts with this thing, and they would be handing out homemade bread and cider and all these type of things. But they're trying to recruit, right? They're trying to pull you in, hey, I know you're over here listening to the Grateful Dead, doing your thing, but once you come over here, we're all peace and love too. Come on, get on the bus. Get on the bus. Don't get on the bus. Don't get on the bus, guys. But the funny thing is that the bus is what actually introduced me to the cult, right? We were looking for a bus to convert into a food truck. So if you've been following me now for just the last few weeks that I've been doing these, you've picked up on the fact that I'm a caterer and a baker, and we are opening a storefront. And then we also wanted to do a food truck, and we were looking for affordable options because, getting into the food industry is not cheap. So if you're thinking about that, I'm just telling you it is not cheap. But so we started looking for these buses, and we're looking for a smaller school bus type thing. And this bus pops up on one of the forums, and my husband is like, what is this bus? I don't understand. So he kind of drills into it, and there's all these comments, and people are like, do not buy that bus, do not get on that bus, da 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 da. It was a Peacemaker bus. And the true crimer in me is I kind of want that bus. I kind of want to buy it and put it it's a little museum over here, which funny enough, you can actually go and visit one of the Peacemakers as a museum. So funny story. But when he showed me the bus, and he's like, have you heard about this? I've heard it's this 12 tribes cult. And at the time I'd heard of them, but I didn't know much about them. So I was like, well, let me look this up, and blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. So that's how I met the 12 tribes here. But anyway, this was a huge recruitment tool to them. And then another recruitment tool was what they called the walkers. And those were folks in their community that they would wear backpacks and walk around neighborhoods or hitchhike or whatever they needed to do. And that was how they would kind of open the door to talk to people and start trying to recruit them. Around the same time throughout this kind of course, we're getting out of late 70s, early 80s now, they adopted a very specific dress code. And that would be the men wearing the long sleeve shirts, the vests. They would tie their hair back because they wore it about shoulder length. Women would wear the pinafores and the skirts with the pantaloons and all this type of thing. And yes, I had to Google what pantaloons were. I didn't know. I'm dropping a picture in because there's somebody else out there who doesn't know too. I believe that. The women would wear their hair long, and they would cover their hair with a headscarf in church, because this was a symbol of being submissive to their husband and the elders of the church. Their diets were very restrictive, or are very restrictive, I guess. they only eat like whole grain breads and different things like that that are very pure in nature, and they can make themselves, because they rally against what they call white bread Jesus and that community of mainstream Christianity. So, I mean, like, Jesus gets a lot of names, y'all. Like, the white bread Jesus was the first one that I'd heard of, but if y'all Google God, why am I like this? Y'all, why? Why do y'all put up with me? Google egg beater Jesus, and you're gonna see a depiction of Jesus on a church that's close to where I'm from in Huntsville, Alabama. And then I've seen touchdown Jesus that he's kind of got his hands in the touchdown position, but never one time had I heard of white bread Jesus. So quite funny, whatever. Most of their members in their diet that I was talking about, they're not vegetarians or anything like that, although they do eat a lot of whole grains, and things like that. But they do abstain from any type of alcohol or coffee. They drink a lot of green tea from Brazil. They focus on their health, doing like aerobics in the morning, and they do this to Israeli music. I assume, I don't know what Israeli music is, but I assume maybe that's to kind of meditate and be one with Christ. To where I'm more of either like a hardcore metal or rap when I'm working out, so they would not like me at all. That's probably a given, though, right? They don't want to raise their children. They want them raised free of iniquity, so they don't want them exposed to access to be able to access TV, candy, toys, movies, pocket money, anything like that. Basically, they're just growing up to learn like skills and trades. So the girls learn how to sew and cook and clean, while the boys are, taking on whatever their father does: carpentry, leather work, farming, all that type of stuff. They're homeschooled when they're young, but then by the time they hit teenage years, they go out and they serve in apprenticeships. So, it's almost kind of sad to me to see that they can't be kids, right? They just have to be little adults in training. Um, and this kind of plays into some allegations that have arisen about the cult but never been proven, and that is that there are alleged abuse situations involving children. And in June of 2022, actually, they raided, no, not June, on June 22nd in 84, they raided the Island Pond community that they're all living in, and they took 112 children out of the commune in fear that they were being harmed in some way, physically harmed. And then they were returned as this was proven to be unfounded. So the judge, I think, in the case called it a fishing expedition. So, they haven't been able to prove anything, but there's been several former members that have alleged that they saw, public beatings of children and things like that. So I don't know. During the 80s and 90s, they started popping up branches all over the world. So you're seeing them now in countries like Canada, Australia, Brazil, Germany, Argentina, the UK. So they're going international at this point. But in the 90s is about the same time that Bob and Judy Pardon are going to show up on the scene. And the Pardons they had founded an institute. They had founded the New England Institute of Religious Research, and also Meadow Haven in Lakeville, Massachusetts. It's a long-term transitional facility to assist members of cults and erratic religious movements and get them help and help them come from that realm and into the free world. And I think if you've ever watched like Escaping Polygamy or anything like that, then you've seen there is a big transition from living this life that is so sheltered and so confined and so structured. They tell you what to think and what to do and how to live and how to act and how to eat, to being free thinking in the world. And it's a lot for these folks to take in. So they help them with that. And Bob and Judy, they came across the 12 tribes after a former member reached out to them and said that she had witnessed multiple members of the cult whipping small children with these long, thin rods I think this probably comes from that old Bible saying, like, spare the rod, spoil a child. But they take it to extreme and leave marks and bruises, allegedly, according to this former member, on these children. And it's okay for any member to do it to any child. So it doesn't have to be your child, doesn't have to be your friend's kid. It can be any random kid that you see acting a fool, and they will just whoop them. Like, whoop them. And this includes, like, 6-month-old babies who cry and wiggle and don't want their diaper changed. Like, okay, what in the world? But the abuse allegations, they were brought forward. They've never gone anywhere. But Bob and Judy kept digging. They kept digging and kept digging, and they started looking into the group and became very close to the group. So the pardons start digging into these papers and the conversion attempts and things like that of the group, and they are immediately not granted access to the official doctrine paperwork. They've been given these free papers that are used in conversion efforts. They've been, given access to members, but they are not privy to, Spriggs's official teachings. And the reason being was because, one, they weren't anointed, and then which meant being in the group, and then they said also that they wouldn't understand them. And Bob Pardon particularly found this to be very comical, since he had not one but 2 degrees in theology and years and years and years of Bible training and Christian history. So he's like, I know I would understand it. I'm not stupid here. But they were like, well, you can't give you access. But eventually, as Bob and Judy got close to these members that had achieved the quote unquote highest levels, they started to slowly share these things with them and give them some insight into it and let them, just kind of in on the secret. And I feel like this just, it gives me such Scientology vibes, right? Like, everything is secret and you can't know because you're not an insider, and we shun outsiders and all this stuff. So, I mean, so different, but yet so alike, right? Kind of where we land, I feel like, with a lot of these groups like this. But anyway, so Bob gets a hold of it, and he kind of starts to dig in and look at these, and he starts seeing what he describes as the more seedy, in his words, quote, seedy underbelly to the group, unquote, end quote, unquote. I don't, jeez. So Bob says that, they started to realize that it was a heavy environment, and there was a lot of control over the members' lives. And I'm talking, control is an understatement here. Like, they are trying to dictate every behavior in these folks' lives. And to give you like an example, for the men of the group, the single men were literally told what days and how often that they should find pleasure alone, if you know what I mean. And then how many squares of toilet paper to use, and how many times to fold it to wipe their butt. So, like, why y'all need to be told this stuff? Like, why? And I mean, I kind of want to read it. Like, I mean, like, what happens if they do pleasure? I almost just did the hand motion. If they pleasure themselves too much, like, do they go blind or something? Like, is that where the old wives' tale comes from? Is it like from the 12 tribes? Like, if you you get in there and you what was that? You oil your baseball mitt, or whatever the joke was. If you do that too many times, you're gonna go blind. Like, what is happening? And why, as a grown man, do you need to be told how to fold your toilet paper and how to wipe your own butt? Like, what is happening right now? Like, I don't know. Anyway, Bob, he sees these. He also then delves into the speak that we talked earlier and confirms the things that we were talking about when we were talking about the child abuse allegations, that they were able to discipline children publicly, and it did not matter if it was your child or not. If you saw a child being disrespectful, you could take that upon yourself as a member of the group to, have that child, have positive, or no, it's not positive, have reinforcement that they should not be acting that way, And for those of you that are on Spotify and you can't see my face right now, like, I'm over here, like, I don't know. I can't imagine, like, I'm in, I don't know, put me somewhere. Where's Walmart? Okay, I'm in Walmart. And, I mean, my kids are pretty good kids, but every kids will be kids and they'll do stuff. And, they act up. And there's some other joker over here to the left, and he's like, well, I'm just going to whoop that kid's tail right now because he's disrespecting his mom. Like, I mean, the earrings are coming off at that point, and we're going to, I mean, hang on. Come on. All right, sorry. We had a little buddy wanting to come and join the group, so we got Clout Puppy here. But I mean, you put your hands on my child. Like, I mean, you put your hands on my kid, you can't expect me not to put hands on you. And so the fact that you guys are all letting corporal punishment go around in the group from any old body, I mean, I'm not going to get into whether or not spanking your own kid is yay or nay. I'm not going to get into that neither here nor there right now on this video for sure. But it sure ain't okay for other people just to like be walking down the street and decide that your kid's acting in a way that they don't approve of and whoop their butt. That's a good way to get your butt whooped. Your own. Like, what is going on? But Bob also started to discover that there were some pretty dark, intolerant things in the doctrine, and in particular was on the topic of homosexuality. It actually read, quote, "They must be put to death. Homosexuality is a capital offense," end quote. So if you're not already mad, half mad and then kind of half scared, just hearing that there's people out there that, are this is an actionable thing, then wait till you kind of hear their thoughts on the African American race, because this one was like, what the heck? They both excuse slavery and then perpetuate the bigotry of the practice and go on as far as to attack Dr. Martin Luther King by saying that, quote, "Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was filled with every evil spirit there is," end quote. Okay, 12 Tribers. All right. So the teaching, it goes on, it gets worse, if you can believe it, it gets worse. So it goes on to say, and I quote, "It is horrible that someone would rise up to abolish slavery. What a marvelous opportunity that blacks could be brought over here to be slaves so that they could be found worthy of the nations," end quote. I don't even know if I want to, I feel like I'm about to get hit with a lightning bolt just for regurgitating that information to you. Like, who in their right mind thinks that way and writes that down and lives by that? Like, Jean, hello, Jean, hi, this is your friend here talking to you and telling you that you need an intervention because you, my friend, are very misguided. That is not okay. So, but anyway, they insist that this is not, that their teachings aren't racist. They actually have a member who is African American, and he praises the KKK on a regular basis, and says that all these quotes are being taken out of context and just it has no application within the 12 tribes, and just first of all, like, I don't like okay, it's in the teachings, it's written down, so I'm not buying it. Like, what the heck are y'all thinking? How are you buying into this mess? You need to call your dad or something, dude, because they have convinced you that this is okay to treat people this way, and you're condoning it because you're speaking out and praising like a hate group. Like, I mean, don't come for me, but we all know, kind of where that, I don't know. Like, I mean, I want to fight somebody right now. I want to square up because this sounds, it's awful, it's insane, it's setting us back years, and you guys are like, no, it's fine, it's in the doctrine, and we don't mean it that way. We don't mean it that way, I'm sorry. Yeah, you do, and I need a fan and a drink and something stronger than my Diet Mountain Dew that I'm sporting back here, because this is some trash right here. I mean, like, Lord have mercy. I mean, the only thing that I guess, like, that when I was reading this stuff about this gentleman who is a black leader in this group, was like, it's like making me think of the the black white supremacist on the Dave Chappelle show. Like, I was like, are we there? Is this all made up? Like, tell me it's made up. It's got to be made up, right? It's got to be made for comic relief. Like, this is not happening, right? This is not the thing. And then I went down a rabbit hole because I'm like, well, whatever happened to Dave Chappelle? Like, I don't even know what happened to Dave Chappelle. That show doesn't come on anymore, right? Or does it? I don't know. I don't watch it. I watch a lot of TV, but I don't watch like that type of TV. I'm just not into, like, if I'm watching TV, it's probably not gonna be stand up kind of thing or a funny show like that. Usually it's either a true crime documentary or professional wrestling, because that's where I live my life. Just right in the middle. And then like the next day I get like an email that says like Dave Chappelle is on tour and coming to a city near me or something like that. So I was like, well, okay. And then I Googled him just to see like what had been going on with him, and found out the show I think had been canceled because of, or something had been canceled because of some remarks he made, and I don't know. It was like it all came full circle, but anyway, like just these comments, the homophobic stuff, the racist stuff. I mean, I'm about to get my sage and cleanse this room just for saying it. And I'm just reporting the news here. I didn't make the news, I'm reporting it. And how can you I mean, I get wanting a close-knit group of people. I get wanting a place to belong. I get wanting to have faith and a future and something to believe in. And, you know, if you're a believer of a religious group, you usually want to believe in something about the afterlife and things like that. Totally get that. Everybody wants to come to a common place with common ideals where they can share them and fellowship and enjoy. Not hating there. But if you believe that this type of hatred is okay, I just, that's where I can't find, no matter how much you want to believe in something, that when it twists it that way, that you're like, it's okay to, you know, call something a capital offense, or, you know, be punishable by death, basically. I'm like, I don't know. I just know like my throat's burning from just the vile that just talking about the doctrine said. But you know, the allegations that came out about the child abuse was then perpetuated a little bit further by a lady named Jenny Lynn Fiore in the early 2000s, who said it's not just the children that are undergoing abuse, it's the women as well. They're very much treated like slaves to their husbands. You know, you're a kitchen slave, you should be in there, cook, clean, you know, bear the children, teach the children how to do the cooking and the cleaning and the sewing, or, you know, or have a boy, even better, where they can go work with their dad. They are very much not treated as equals in any respect. They don't carry respect from their husbands. So, you know, we've got child abuse, we've got hatred towards homosexuality or homophobia going on, we got racism going on, and now we got like wife abuse going on. So like there's a lot being alleged in this group. So, you know, it's scary that they're out there. They're still doing their thing. By 2008, you know, so not that long ago, Spriggs relocates back to Chattanooga with his wife, and they reopen the Yellow Deli, and then they open it this time on McCallie Avenue, which I'm going to show you on a graphic right here how close this is to the University of Chattanooga campus. I keep calling it the University of Chattanooga. It's the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, UTC. So very close. They start to pop up in various other places around the United States, California, Vermont, Georgia, Colorado. I think there's some in Florida, New York, North Carolina. Lots of times that they are located close to a college. If they're not, I think there was one, I want to say there was one in Alabama that wasn't close to a college, but it was close to what I would call more of a free-thinking, like hippie type town. The counterculture type environment. So they located one there. They're all over the world at this point, in Spain, England, Australia. I think there's one in Japan. So they, you know, this deli is really becoming, you know, large and spread out, and they're putting it by design next to people who they think that they can have influence over and will join. In particularly, I think they like the younger people, because one, you're easier to influence when you're younger. It just is what it is. You don't know as much, and, you know, so let me teach you what we know. And then, you know,
I think all young adults, as they come out of college and things like that, are looking for somewhere to belong. So they're willing to take you right on in, right? But from what I understand, the food is fabulous. Everybody says it's great. There's been a lot of people that have been interviewed that says it's got, just a cool vibe once you get past the first couple times when they're trying to recruit you. If you can get past that, then it's a fun place to hang out. It's kind of quiet. Um, has a pretty decent little fun place to go at night, kind of nightlife, vibe to it. And folks are like, it'd be great if it just didn't have this affiliation with this group. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to go. I kind of want to go. Is that weird? It's not weird, is it? Like I want to go. I think there's one. I think in. I'm gonna look this up and confirm it. And if it is, I'll drop a picture of it in here. I think there's one in Pulaski, Tennessee, which is way close to me. And then there's one in Chattanooga, so that's still close enough. My best friend and I want to go, so I guess I will post. If you don't follow me on Instagram, it's the links down in the description box. You should, because I'll probably post on there when I'm gonna go. I won't video. I'm not gonna video on the inside because I am certain that would probably get me not in a good place. But we'll document if we go, and then if I don't show back up, I guess you know what happened to me, so you can call the police, call them, and tell them that I've been snatched by the 12 tribes. But as it stands today, as I'm recording this video, they have grown to about 3,000 to 4,000 people, a mix between adults and children, which to me is pretty big for not a huge, well-known cult or group of people. Gene passed away in 2021 at the age of 83, and of course there was a lot of turmoil, oh my goodness, is he gonna be is this the end of the 12 tribes because our leader has passed on, what are we gonna do? And there were several of the members who were like, absolutely not, we have our own authority, and we don't own any personal possessions other than our toothbrushes and stuff. Everything else is communal, so we're still tight knit, we still depend on each other, all these things. So yeah, I mean, peacemakers are still running around out there. You can go eat at the Yellow Deli. I don't know, y'all. What do y'all think? Do y'all think this is a cult? Because I definitely do, with the closed-minded ideals and the mind control. When you start taking doctrine and it's telling you everything from what you can listen to, what you can watch, what you can do, how you wipe your own butt, that's taken it to an extreme, and that to me is cult-like behavior, right? So I gotta vote yes. I gotta vote yes on the cult thing. Granted, we don't have the craziness that we hear of in a lot of them, where they're hoarding weapons and getting ready to attack or do a mass exit like Heaven's Gate or Jonestown or something like that. But and hopefully we don't. No one wants that to happen to anybody, but it does sound like they are, they're ranking right on up there. So let me know what you guys think down below. This was a kind of a long one, but there was a lot to unpack there. Probably could have went into even more detail. It was pretty fascinating to read about this, so I encourage you to go out there and do some of your research. It's a wild ride out there with the whole 12 tribes and these buses. And I don't know why, I find the bus thing funny. I think it's just because of how it popped up and how we discovered the peacemaker all the way around, and everyone in the comments don't get on the bus, don't buy the bus, don't get on the bus. So it's out there, people know about it. So if we go to the Yellow Deli, I will keep you posted if I get a cult club sandwich or something. I don't know why I like culture club, just I'm aging myself is coming in to my brain right now. Okay, you guys have had enough of me today. I know you have, but I am so thankful to have you here. I will see you in the next one, and until then, please stay sweet out there, stay safe, and stay off the bus. Bye.